Welcome into another edition of Ringside Review. I am Athan Hristodulu, joined alongside, as always, by Matthew Colpitts. We are taking a look at the May 5th edition of Monday Night Raw. Action-packed night, the go-home Raw ahead of Backlash this Saturday. Some stories getting lengthened out a little bit. We get a little bit more between Jey Uso and Logan Paul making a surprise appearance after the show went off the air. Lyra, Becky Lynch exchanging some words. So plenty to discuss and get into. Matt, we're going to start off. We'll save the opening of the show and the main event for the end of this here. So for those of you looking for that, you'll catch it towards the tail end. We're going to start with Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch with a little bit of an exchange, a war of words, I guess, if you will, before they ended up brawling to wrap up their segment. I have a bit of a concern, and we already kind of touched on it last week, and I think you will understand where I'm coming from here. We have Becky Lynch calling everyone imaginable in this situation. Garbage, trash, recycling, you name it. She laid it all out there. Everything but the dumpster at this point. However, the crowd, despite her laying into everyone and just disrespecting everyone possible, they're still cheering for her. She's not getting the boos that she needs to be getting. And I'm starting to get worried that this is going to end up as a dud of a feud because Becky Lynch is too hard to buy into as a heel. She is too beloved by the fans, despite the fact that she's calling everyone out, fans included. She's calling them out for booing her, but they're literally cheering her as she's saying, like, it's a bit of a mess. And I'm a little bit worried that she can't turn the crowd. And I feel like they need some sort of big payoff at Backlash to really set this in motion here if she's going to be running heel for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I think a great example of this is with I was observing Paul Heyman this week, and Paul is one of those guys that clearly that he's loved, but he's starting to get that heat. You need to have that level of being respected, loved by the wrestling community, but also can do something or say something that generates actual heat. And I feel like that is what Becky has been kind of lacking here. It feels very kind of lazy, like how I viewed John Cena's heel run recently, where it's just diss the crowd, kind of use the usual cheap heat, pretty much as you call it. And Becky hasn't really done anything necessarily other than attack Bayley, which I know we talked about a little bit last week, to really kind of sell you in terms of like, oh yeah, like I could start to get a little heat here. I could start to hate her. It's just not working. It's not clicking. I actually don't think she's been doing the best heel work. I feel like she's done way better heel work in the past. So I completely hear your concerns, man. I'm starting to feel that too. I don't know if you're going to touch upon it, but I do think Lyra is really elevating herself. I think she's really kind of killing it on the mic and doing well. But I can't say the same for Becky, and I do see that concern.
Yeah, I literally have that written down too. Like I want to give Lyra all the credit in the world because I think she's doing a really good job of trying to be the face that you're supposed to love in this situation here and feel for in the situation that she's in. But I feel like I don't know if I would say it's lazy, but it does kind of feel like just taking the cheap shots at the crowd. I don't think lazy is the right word because Becky Lynch is one of those workhorses, but like I think they're just having a hard time figuring out the angle she needs to take to really get the crowd to hate her. And I feel like it needs to get more personal towards Lyra. And I kind of wish that this feud maybe had one more week to maybe flesh out just a little bit further where we can get, because I think Lyra did a good job when she brought up the recycling thing to Becky saying you basically recycle everything and you got the ooh from the crowd and everything. So it's like they're getting there, but I think they need one more week where Becky needs to get personal towards Lyra, and she hasn't really done a great job of that to this point. And it's just the time between WrestleMania and Backlash is just so short. It is what it is, I guess. But this is, in my eyes, just a feud that needs like another week, and it needs to be a little bit more personal. And we don't have the time for that, unfortunately. That's why I feel like with the match at Backlash, something maybe needs to happen where like maybe Bayley intervenes or it's just some sort of, I mean, I guess Becky needs to win the title in some underhanded way that would get the crowd to turn on her. I'm not really sure what the answer to that would be, but this needs something. And because we don't have another Monday Night Raw to flesh it out, I think we just have to look at Backlash and hope that maybe there's a big payoff there. One thing I do want to highlight with you though, Match of the night in my eyes. And honestly, one of the better Monday Night Raw matches we've seen in quite some time. And it's not that I wasn't anticipating it being a good match. I just didn't really know what to expect of it. Io Sky and Roxanne Perez just tearing the house down. Io Sky seems to be having money matches with everybody as of late, and she is just unbelievable in the ring. I've been a little bit confused with the use of Roxanne Perez and Julia on Monday Night Raw because they're still technically NXT talent. They're still on NXT, but like they're doing this in-between role thing going on right now. But I've got to say, if I was to, give my Dave Meltzer opinion here, like that was 4.5, maybe 5 stars even. Like it was perfect. There was no real moment where I felt like anything felt off, nothing felt awkward. They just meshed in the ring so well, and the crowd was behind it. Everything felt great. The ending, unfortunately, I hate the run-in situation that we keep getting with everything, but it is what it is. I'm enjoying Io Sky's work as a champion, and this was a match I just had no expectations for and was blown away by.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the coffin with Io Sky. I feel like having that payoff, that WrestleMania win has really solidified her as a star. Now, obviously, she is already a former women's world champion, but this time around, it really feels like the crowd's behind her. She's got the taunt starting to get over. Like, everything is clicking for her, and I love it. I think she's just, probably one of the best, if not the best, active wrestler, female wrestler in ring. And I think it's cool that, it's clicking. Like, she's not a heel. She's not struggling on the mic, or at least they're navigating that better with the language barrier. Like, she's just in a great spot. As for Roxanne, yeah, I agree. I think the whole kind of like making them work overtime deal, where it's like one night they're in NXT, the next night they're in Raw, that's a lot. Credit to her and Julia, and I know Stephanie Vaquer has been coming up and down quite a lot as well. So shout out to them for all putting in overtime. I think it's fine. Like, they're just more getting like the exposure, and they have that security blanket of like, you're a rookie, like if you take a bunch of losses, like you're still so new, you're the future. So I'm not worried about Roxanne really getting damaged by taking all these losses, although it's been quite a few losses on Monday Night Raw now.
Yeah, definitely.
It was a banger, and I completely agree. I think it was definitely a strong 4.5, if not a 5-star match, and we got it on free television, man. So no complaints.
Absolutely. And now we're basically getting set up here for this tag team match. I believe it's next week on Monday Night Raw, where we have Rhea Ripley, Io Sky going up against Julia and Roxanne Perez. It's been a while since I've been really excited about a women's tag team match, but I've been, and again, not somebody who watches a ton of NXT myself, being able to see Roxanne Perez, and this is kind of like where, again, I'm confused about seeing it, but I'm also kind of enjoying it because it's exposing me to wrestlers I simply don't have the time to watch during my normal life. Like, it's hard squeezing in Monday Night Raw as it is, and even getting into SmackDown on the Fridays, depending on what my life looks like those days, but being able to be exposed to some of the up-and-coming emerging talent and seeing the way that they perform, like, I'm excited for this tag team match, and there's literally nothing but beef carrying it, and now I'm starting to be like, okay, so maybe I should have some expectations. This might really be one of those matches that shows up big time for Raw.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a strong suit of NXT, and that's why they got all the showcase in the Royal Rumble. You always have the call-ups. I remember way back, even when John Cena was doing like his United States Championship run, you had Sami Zayn coming up at the time, Kevin Owens. The NXT excitement and just overall program is definitely one of Triple H's like highlights. Like, he has done that right for the past decade. Ever since it got rebranded, ever since these stars are just legit contenders. I mean, look at, some of the alum. You got Braun Breaker, main event guy now. You got, Finn Balor was a main event guy until that all kind of went downhill. Shinsuke, AJ Styles wasn't in there, but you get the point. There's so many guys that came from NXT that are just, the future, and I think that's what we're looking at with Roxanne, Julia, Stephanie Vaquer, and over on the men's side, you got like Oba Femi, Trick Williams. I know a bunch of different names, and now Braun's really coming into that light. So yeah, I'm excited. I think same deal. I don't really watch a lot of NXT, but this is a really cool showcase to kind of show off Roxanne and a lot of these other talents, and they're doing damn well.
Yeah, I almost like this kind of style of we're showcasing the talent rather than elevating them to the main roster permanently kind of deal, because if worst case scenario, and I'm not saying this is what's going on here because I think it's working extremely well right now, you're getting the opportunity to showcase this talent on the bigger stage, on the not network television, it's Netflix now, but you know what I mean, and we're getting to see this talent, but they're not their hands aren't tied. Like, they don't have to be on Monday Night Raw where the roster's so bloated, because they would do that every year after Mania. You get all these random call-ups, all these people, the roster's all of a sudden completely saturated with talent, and you almost don't know what to do with all these people. And like, you had Rusev come back, who we'll touch on in a second here, but like, it's nice that we get to see this talent, and then if, you know, they finish off with this tag team match and that's the end of it, like, that can be the end of it. They can go back and do their thing at NXT. They've kind of gotten to jump in the pool a little bit of the main roster and get some experience. Now, I did just briefly mention Rusev here, so I do want to get your quick thoughts on this. Not like a ton, but just curious overall. Made his debut last night, or not debut, but return in the WWE ring for the first time in 5 years. We have him basically just completely decimate Otis when things are all said and done. Did it do anything for you?
Yes and no. I think short term, I'm happy. I was, an AEW fan for quite some time and saw his whole Miro Redeemer gimmick, and I loved it. I think it has so much potential, and if booked correctly, almost like how we always talk about Gunther has to be a monster, this was great potential for Rusev to be a monster if it works right. Doesn't always work out. Who just got released? The monster among men, Braun Strowman. So sometimes these monster gimmicks don't always work. I think it's great, but I do still have worries that, it may not get booked right and just fizzle out, and another failed project.
Yeah, this is kind of the route that I wanted them to go with him. So I really hope that they lean into the more like monster-sized heel angle where he's just running through people. And I think he needs to get a championship sooner rather than later, just so we can get like a good babyface to try to dethrone the monster thing going for him. I don't want him just squashing people for a few weeks and getting lost in the shuffle. Like, there needs to be a point to this. And that's one thing that sometimes I feel like WWE doesn't do the best of, is like, why is this monster squashing everybody? Like, we need to get to the why sooner rather than later. So, I mean, it is what it is. I didn't really have massive expectations. I kind of feel like I got roughly what I was expecting out of it. I was honestly a little bit surprised, because I thought Rusev was just going to take the high road and be like, yeah, I won, see ya, and walk away. That was like almost a bit of a swerve on its own, but then of course he races back in the ring to finish off the job and take everybody out. But I'll be interested to see what they do. I just hope they get to the why is the monster doing what he's doing sooner rather than later part. But we got to get into the main event, which basically spanned the entirety of the show here. CM Punk returning to make the save on Jey Uso against Seth Rollins in the main event for the championship match. This was set up earlier in the night with a really good back and forth between Paul Heyman and Jey Uso, where Jey basically tells him, you got a lot of nerve in a different way, coming out to speak to me after what you did to my family. And then Heyman kind of just like let loose on an emotional tirade, I guess you could call it, calling out CM Punk for the situation he put him in, Roman Reigns and the situations that he put him in, from ultimately Roman losing the title to disappearing to leaving Paul Heyman in this vulnerable situation with that new-aged bloodline we were getting with Solo Sikoa, to coming back. And I mean, he threw some dirt. Like, he called out CM Punk for putting him in a weird spot, but he threw some dirt on Roman Reigns' name for leaving him high and dry, for coming back for the Ula Fala, not even to avenge him. Like, there was a lot of dirt thrown on Roman in there. So I thought it was a great way to kind of open up this whole situation. We obviously then get the backstage promo once Jey Uso accepts the championship challenge for the night. He's telling Seth, he fell for it. There's two things I took away from this entire situation here. First and foremost, Paul Heyman, unbelievable on the mic. He literally never fails to sell anything. But the Braun Breaker situation is a little awkward in my eyes, because while I was listening to Paul talk to Braun about this grand vision, you look at Braun Breaker and like, he's playing second fiddle to Seth in this group, and I don't really see how this is going to work. Braun Breaker feels like the alpha, like he's the type A guy, and he's kind of taking a backseat to watch Seth Rollins get this championship. And like, I'm looking at Braun, and in my mind, I'm like, in his head, he must be going, why is this not me getting this championship opportunity? Like, I am literally, like, look at me, I'm destroying people, Paul. Why are we giving Seth this championship match? And I get Seth's the leader, but like, did you catch that vibe at all from that?
Absolutely. I mean, first I want to touch upon Paul. You absolutely, again, took the words right out of my mouth. And I alluded to it earlier in this episode that he just does not miss. In my opinion, GOAT manager in WWE, like the greatest, just because of the character work. And I think he's doing an incredible job of getting that heat, being the heel, delivering promos like we got yesterday, but also still just having your respect. You're like, man, like, you are just good at what you do. With that being said, with Braun, yeah, absolutely. I get that vibe. And I don't know where it's gonna go. I again think this is gonna be more than just Seth and Braun. So I do think another member is coming along. Then maybe the puzzle pieces will kind of fill out better. But as of right now, it very much feels like Braun is just kind of there. Like he's there to spear a bunch of people and just wait for his turn. But I feel like the biggest ammo is that he's beaten Jey Uso before. So it's like I'm surprised he didn't bring that up or like kind of have like that moment where he's like, why isn't it me out there? Like I already beat this guy. Like, you know, like I don't know, just like a little Easter egg or hint to kind of allude that in the future, you know, some kind of heel turn, or he's already healed, but some kind of turn internally between him and Seth will happen. So yeah, I agree. I think it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic forms, but I think once we learn a little bit more about this group, maybe at Backlash they have an appearance and another member joins, it'll all make sense.
Yeah, I'm glad that kind of planted the same seeds in your mind that it gave to me. Like just watching that whole thing, I'm thinking like, why isn't Braun Breaker more like when I look at Braun, I think main event star, and I in the back of my mind, I'm like, he has to be thinking, why isn't this me? Like in terms of his character. So I'm glad that you kind of caught the same feeling I did. Now, obviously, CM Punk returns, makes a save after Sami Zayn kind of failed to do so in what was a messy ending of a Monday Night Raw main event. But something happened after the show that I briefly wanted to touch on before we go here, and that was, of course, if you're looking on the screen right now, post-show, Logan Paul, out of nowhere, right hand to Jey Uso, knocking him out cold, leaving him laying ringside. I love and hate that they did this after the show went off the air because I love seeing this stuff happen on Raw, but I get what they're trying to do with the social angle here. Why is this not on Backlash? That's the one thing. I thought this match was going to happen at Backlash, but it's not. It's not on the card. It doesn't seem like it's going to happen. I think that's why we got the World Championship match. So just real quickly, did WWE whiff on just having this be a part of Backlash? Like, why is it not there?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I do think Triple H just loves his 5-match specials. That's like kind of his dream. So I don't see it getting added now that we already have the 5 slots filled up. I do like the social angle, especially with a guy like Logan Paul. It makes sense, trendy, get the clicks, get the viral sensation. But I have seen some rumors that maybe it's getting pushed to Saturday night's main event. I don't know when that falls date-wise, but that's where I think I see it going. But yeah, I'm definitely was surprised that it was not on Backlash. It was being heavily advertised.
Yeah, that's a really good call on your part now that I'm thinking about it, because I believe it's like the last Saturday of the month or close to the end of the month, something like that. So we do have that Saturday night's main event coming up. That is a good call there. He pushed that main championship match to then. But that's going to do it for us. That's all we have for this past Monday Night Raw. Matt, as always, pleasure discussing wrestling with you all. Thank you again. As always, you made it to the end. Greatly appreciate it. We'll see you all next time for another edition of Ringside Review.